Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Today we are doing What If Deku Was Cursed to Toga. We'll be starting off with Deku being born on the same day and time as Toga. Deku being born into an average family with his father and his mother. His father actually sticks around this time, as Deku is born with the quirk of connectivity. Connection, actually. Connection to who, he has no idea. But the fact that he has a quirk gives him hope. It gives him a reason to go on. It gives him something to work for. Instead of idolizing, All Might, who just simply idolized because he had a quirk and he was the symbol of peace, of course. He goes more into villains. He studies villains a lot more. He finds them so interesting that they use their quirks for evil. He has no idea why they would do that. He has zero clue. He wants to know. He needs to know. And with that comes sort of this feeling of, I will be the hero that defeats all villains. Like, he will stop villains from becoming villains. He wants to stop anybody that he can from becoming a villain. And his father stays around this time. His father's a sort of police officer this time. Officer of law, of course. And, retired by this point when he turns around 13. However, when he turned 4 and he didn't get a quirk, that sends him into sort of a depression by himself. And that affects Toga, who was the second person that was born on the same day. And she was also born immediately with the quirk connectivity and that connection, which was incredible for that place. And her father, wife beater, classic. Everybody hates him, all right. But since his daughter was born with a quirk, and then when she turns 4, she gets another quirk. That's insane. Causes him to get jealous and of course beat on her more, which is yikes. So basically Deku feels this throughout his childhood. He has zero clue what it could be. Maybe it's like his quirk activating. What if it's just like him having some sort of mental disorder? Maybe it's something, but he constantly tries to find out what it is, and he finds that, it's the connection. It has to be. And he starts to find like random scars appear, just gigantic ones, the only ones that really matter. And he really wants to find the second person, and he goes out daily, searching throughout the city. He finds villains, and after being beaten up a few times from trying to find his connection partner, he starts to figure out that he should learn martial arts. Of course, he needs to defend himself. All right, he starts to learn Muay Thai, some grappling moves, and of course boxing. He finds kickboxing especially neat for himself. And he meets All Might on one of these things, and he actually, he doesn't idolize All Might as he did before, but he asks him one question. Has he ever heard of a quirk, of a person being born with a quirk? And All Might, of course, responds with no. No, that's impossible. Physically impossible. After All Might, then leaps away, he's like, is it a curse then? And this is what starts, his sort of obsession with his own quirk of trying to find his partner and trying to tell them that it's a curse, that, they need to work this out themselves. And, more scars rise. He continues searching. And then one day when he turns around 13, he starts to feel something that hurts in his groin. And he asks his dad, like, what could this be? And he's like, so your quirk connects to your next partner. Who do you know who the partner is? He's like, no, I've been searching my whole life. I can't. He's like, well, do you know who they're like? He's like, well, it's a female, and well, they don't live in the greatest of condition, obviously. He's like, wait, a female, and it hurts in your groin right now? He's like, yeah, what about it? He's like, oh fuck, okay, fuck, go. We need to point me in the general direction that you've been searching this whole time. And, you know, he points in whatever fucking direction, I don't know. And immediately they get in the car and they drive down to downtown, right? Deku continues pointing, and they go almost halfway across the state until they get to a trailer home. And, you know, of course, his father immediately gets out and goes up to the door and knocks on it. He puts Deku in like a bush or something nearby and tells him to just not come out, right? And Deku, of course, listens to his father. He always has. Because he trusts his father. He idolizes his father as a hero that he's always tried to stop villains before they go into robberies. Like, he's always tried to talk down people before they, you know, before having to use brute force. And, you know, he starts talking to the guy inside, whoever comes to the door, and then immediately is punched outside. He's punched straight down into the grass, and then he starts to pick himself back up as Toga's father comes out, you know, with classic, like, wife beater vibes from him, you know. His arms start to grow into, like, gorilla arms, which is his quirk, and he charges straight at Deku's father. Deku's father runs to the pier and then tries to blow fire all over, you know, him, and then they continue their fight. Deku sort of looks to the open door and starts to walk inside. As he feels the connectivity start to grow larger, he starts to feel like scars start to open up on his arms, like huge ones. And then he grabs he sees Toga, you know, in the corner cowering with her little brother and sisters, and she's terrified. He feels so bad for her. He feels the terror in her. He feels it, and you know, this makes her sort of feel his sort of worry for her. And she's like, what the fuck? What is this? As he comes over and, like, you know, both of her siblings cower in the corner. As she asks him, what are you doing here? And who is that man that's fighting my father? And he's like, that's my father. Anyways, I believe we have a connection. Our quirks. And she's like, what are you talking about? I don't know what you're talking about. And he's like, we both have a quirk. The same quirk. One that connects us. Physically and mentally. She's like, I mean, I have felt it, but what do you want? He's like, I don't want anything. I want to help. And she's like, help? How can you help? There's nothing you can do now. Just leave. Leave us alone. We'll find our way through. And he's like, I just want to help. He puts his hand on her shoulder as they start to lock. All their memories start to shift into each other, as all of the memories of her beatings and his memories of, you know, losing his quirk, like figuring out that his quirk is physically useless, that, you know, that sends him into more dread than he never showed anybody, except her. She's the only person that knows he's been in more dread and pain than anybody. He's torturing himself. And plus, having her scars on him gives him questions, gives him doubts, gives him everything that he needs to just coddle into this anger pot inside of him. This sort of anxiety chamber that he's trapped himself in. And she realizes that he's in the same pain that she is. And she says, fine. I see why now. I'm sorry. I didn't believe you before. He's like, good. Please, come with me. As he directs them to the outside, he takes them to the car. And before he can open up the door, he hears thud, thud, thud. As suddenly, you know, he turns around and sees her father walking out of the ocean, drenched in water. You know, with his gorilla arms starting to shrink back down. He starts to walk inside the house as he realizes that the door is open, and turns around and sees, you know, Deku with his children, and is like, come now, Toga. You can't trust this guy. Seriously. You just met him. Come on. come back to Papa. You know what happens when I get mad. She's like, you don't control me anymore. I'm going to make my own way now. Goodbye, Father. He's like, oh, you think you can leave that? You think you can leave that easily? Deku suddenly realizes, oh shit, my father, and looks over and sees his father's lifeless body on the beachfront. Just by the looks of him, he's either unconscious or dead. And either one, it's got him pissed. He grabs hold of Toga, feeling all the anger and the anguish that she's felt over the years against this man. And he looks to his gigantic form and he says, fuck it. I can't run anymore. No, never again. I will run no longer from villains. Never, ever. As she says, Deku? As he's, she had never learned his name, by the way. So this is sort of, them connecting so many memories that now she knows his name. As the gorillaed man starts to charge at the car, Deku looks up and says, no more! As he takes out the sort of the baton that his father had carried in the car, as he smashes it against the gorilla man's arms. He says, I might even have to use my quirk now. Stupid baton. As he picks up Deku and throws him against the ground. Deku picks himself back up, unhuman-like, almost like his endurance was maxed out, basically. It was insane to her. Why would he fight like this? I know from his memories he's a coward. He's only studied some boxing and some Muay Thai. He doesn't even know anything. He's never fought. Why is he... And then, he charges right back in, screaming at the top of his lungs. He throws the baton at the gorilla man's face as he jumps onto his leg and then hops up onto his face and grabs onto his neck. And then hooks him straight back and hooks right to the right back of him. Grabbing onto his back, he grabs with two arms and starts choking him out. As the man, falls down to the ground, smashing Deku into the ground as hard as he can. This knocks the wind out of Deku, but Deku keeps up the chokehold for as long as he can, almost knocking the father out. However, the father's overpowering Deku shortly. And, this sort of, this beat down that Deku is taking as his father smashes him repeatedly into the ground sort of brings back memories of him. Like he's losing his life. Like his memories, his life is flashing before his eyes. He doesn't know what's happening, but all he knows is that his arm cannot give way. And Toga feels that. Toga feels everything. She grabs the knife from her back pocket and climbs onto her father's front. As her father is distracted with trying to take off Deku's arms. As he does successfully, she's already on top of him with the knife to his head. She says, no more. I'm doing this for me, not for anything else. For Deku. As she just lunges and shinks the freaking knife into her father's head. The blood splatters everywhere all over Deku, and this sort of scarring that they both share now. This reflects in their minds as freedom. The freedom reigns. As, he slowly gets out from under him, he recovers back, and, she hugs him and sort of says, thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you for everything. And he says, I just want to help. As he falls back, unconscious, she immediately starts driving the car, which she has never driven before, by the way, because they're fucking 13, taking down this, this villain. And she starts driving off. and drives to the freaking thing because she had to learn how to drive for, you know, groceries and shit because her fucking dumbass father, you know, forced her to. And, you know, she'd raced him to the hospital and shit. And, you know, he had like blunt force to the head and shit. And this reflects in her too. As long as she doesn't touch him, it won't hurt her. But by the time he's recovered, it's already been like half a year since then. And not half a year. What the fuck am I talking about? Sorry. It's been a few days, and his mother comes to the hospital, and, you know, receives the bad news about his father, and, you know, starts crying and shit, and it's really sad. But Deku's like just happy, actually. When he recovers back from, you know, all of his concussions, he says that he's actually happy now. For once in his life, he's happy with his situation. He's happy with what he's done. And he looks over to see fucking Toga, sitting in the corner, asleep with her siblings, and says, "Mother, those three over there, they're our future. They're what we need to protect. If they're not, then I just wasted my life. Please protect them." And that'll end it for this time. Thank you so much for watching. And I hope I'll see you guys sometime, somewhere. Goodbye.